Hey everybody, today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my research on the theory that Earth has a second South Pole. And I don't mean just like the magnetic South Pole and geographic South Pole, but I mean actually two geographic South Poles. So I got a whole bunch of information ready on Google Earth, and I'm also doing this on a live stream. So I'm just going to type a message here into the chat. Make sure that it's working. So, yeah, and if anyone wants to join in with questions, even if the show isn't still live, you can type something and I'll try to get to it eventually. Right, so looks like it is not working. Right, so I wonder, has anyone heard of this theory before? And when I was posting it in a few different groups, some people are saying they had heard of it before. I was pretty surprised at that because I hadn't really heard of it. Oh, there we go. It said it for a second. Alright, so it should be working now. Hey, we got someone in the chat. Thanks for putting a message. I don't know why it's not coming up on the screen. I'll try again. Nah, still it doesn't. That's kind of a shame. Yeah, well, I guess I'll get on with the show. Sorry I don't have the chat working. I'll just keep glancing at the TV occasionally. Yeah, and if you want to call in, I can also do Skype calls, or I can do Google Hangouts. So we could try either of those. I'm going to be doing some, what is it called, Clone Evolution live streams, probably later in the week. Just going to mix it up with some of the research I've been doing lately. Yeah, sometimes I get bored of doing streams of the same stuff over and over. Alright, so the first thing I'll bring up for evidence for a second South Pole is Google Earth. Now on Google Earth, what I did is I put onto it a very ancient style full circle map. And I guess if people haven't heard of the Great Circle maps before, it's the kind that like Perry Reese used to use. You'd probably be familiar with the Equator Great Circle, how it does one full lap around the Earth. Basically how the ancients used to do maps was instead of doing, a line at each tropic that was shorter distance around the Earth, they decided to do a full one. And when you draw it out, it looks pretty cool. And then as I was drawing it, I happened to come across looking at the South Pole for quite a while, and I happened to realize that there was like this little drag mark in between the South Pole where it connects to South America. And then yeah, there was this article that came out about a week ago, and it was going on about different information about how this Antarctica continent, the South Pole, used to be tropical at one point. And I thought that was pretty wild. Like, I've heard, I think, theories about that, but never actually confirmed evidence that it was. So that was a little bit news to me. And I was thinking that's pretty wild too, because like, if it was tropical before, that means that a different location, I think, used to be the South Pole. So that started to get me guessing, like, where could this second South Pole be, right? Then right off the bat, I was thinking, man, I came across a continent that looked similar to the South Pole before when I was making these maps, and it just so happened to be Australia. So I guess I'll put it up on the screen here. This was the comparison I was looking at. I was like, man, no, let's make it full screen. Yeah, so this comparison here, I was checking it out and I'm like, man, I've seen this pattern before. This, if we were going to look for something that was a second south pole, this Australia continent is, man, it's very similar. You can see that like the way the tip of, what would that be, Southeast Asia comes down. It's very similar in the geography that South America comes down. How it has one of those drag marks where it does like a loop and connects, so forth. So I was like, yeah, I had seen this geography before. I thought that was kind of a fluke that it looked so similar and stuff, so I was like checking with different academics to see if anyone had came up with such a theory before. And it turned out, yeah, that it's part of the Pangea theory. So it's actually already well acknowledged that, let's see here. Yeah, so it's already well acknowledged that it is, used to be one giant South Pole. Here, I'll show you on Google Earth. If I take off my Great Circle map and I put on the plate boundaries, you can see that that's where the poles used to connect, or both of the continents used to connect to make one giant one. And you can also see here this other sunken continent of Zealandia off the coast of Australia was part of it. It connected in there. Yeah, I guess so Zealandia would have kicked into there, and that would have joined there. So I was thinking like, maybe this is where the whole idea comes from, where we always have the debates about why the magnetic north and the geographic north are different. I was thinking, what happens if the Earth split like this a long time ago, and our pole all of a sudden was screwed up because it used to be just one body, but then it started bouncing back and forth between the two. And I was trying to think, like, where could I get some evidence to prove this, that the pole, magnetic pole, is doing this, bouncing back and forth between the two. So I was thinking I should check out the North Pole. Maybe I skipped a little bit too far ahead. Like, I was just thinking here, like, picture this as being Australia, and if this was the South Pole, the opposite was going to have to be the North Pole. So what I did is I took a slide. Alright, I went to a website, made a slide here for us to see. There's this website where you can go to it and it'll show you the opposite place of where you're standing on the other side of the globe. So I put it on Australia, and then I noticed that it happened to put the guy like right into the middle of the Atlantic, sort of like halfway in between Africa and Newfoundland. So I was thinking, I don't know if that's really possible, that that's where the North Pole used to be. So I started to investigate more into the North Pole. Yeah, I guess I'll bring up Google Earth. Alright, so what I did is I decided to bring up the North Pole. Take off the plate boundaries. And with my yellow full circle map, you get a really good look at what the North Pole is supposed to look like when it wasn't all smashed up during the last cataclysm. So you can see here that the left side of our continent is still intact. It's got the ridge and the two continents coming together at the two triangle points, sort of like an hourglass meeting in the middle, making the Bering Strait. Well, I believe that in the old days, that's actually what North America used to look like on the right side also, and it used to connect to Europe in the same spot with like the hourglass. So I'll show you a little bit of a slide. I recreated that. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so here it is. This is the slide I made to demonstrate what the continent used to look like, I believe. And the reason I believe this is because these geographic North Poles are usually formed by this magnetic field, or the field that's, I don't know, you can see it from these great circle maps. It shapes all the continents around it. Yeah, sorry to be using my vaporizer, but my stomach's acting up a little today. At least it's helping it settle a bit. Alright, so yeah, I'll show you guys basically how I made this map is I just took all the regular continent matter, put it into another video or image editing program, stuck it all back together like closer as if they hadn't drifted, and then just placed it and attached it to North America. You can see that it almost makes the shape perfectly. The only other changes I had to make to the Europe side of it is where England is currently is different. Like it shifted down here. But I believe like you can look at the way that it connects there to there, that this continent or piece of land used to be attached up here before it drifted down there. So I don't know if there's any ancient history about England or that part of the world being a lot colder in the past, but I think there's a chance that it was. Alright, so the next thing I was going to show you guys is you can tell the before and after pictures. There's quite a big difference here, and it looks like some sort of sphere-shaped object smashed its way through this part of the continent, breaking it up. I was like, do we have any evidence of the magnetic North Pole moving in this type of direction? Because I was like, shit, like that almost looks like the same size as an orb. So I'm gonna bring back Google Earth and I'll show you guys what I found out. Now it's pretty lucky that with my Google Earth map, it's like too bad I can't recreate the land with the way it used to look like on it. I can import an image, but anyways, what I can do though is I can put up the magnetic north. Yeah, I was just reading the messages on the screen there. Yeah, one of the viewers is putting that they've never heard about it. I know a channel that's talking about, oh yeah, the pole shifts. Yeah, the time periods I'm talking about this, it's like the article that from what is it, ABC or NBC News was saying approximately, was it 90 million years ago? But I'm going to get into a little bit of evidence that I think that this is actually a recurring cycle that's happened more than once. So that would just be like one of the occasions that happened 90 million years ago. Yeah, and so for the evidence, yeah, I was just about to get to that. So I can click up onto my Google Earth thing and also put on the magnetic field of the Earth. And you can trace it, like how far it's gone, and it shows the age from like the 1500s to modern times. And basically the path that it's showing is that this magnetic field marker smashed through here. It's been going up along the deeper parts of the North Pole, going towards Russia or Siberia, and I believe it's going to take a drastic turn towards England in the same path that all this dark path is. And it's once it reaches there, it's going to do the full circle and back around, because basically around here was the opposite of Australia. So what I was trying to say is, like, can you imagine, like, one of the poles snaps from the South Pole, and then the opposite end starts wobbling, right? I'm just showing a pen. So as the bottom pole shifts from Antarctica to South America, or to Australia, that's going to cause the North Pole to start doing a wobble. And I think that wobble path is what smashed the North Pole. And that's why it's all fucked up right now. Like, you can see the before and after. I'll show you again. Like, here's what it used to look like before this giant catastrophe happened and smashed the pole in half. Now it's like, before anything was going through there, it was solid. But now ever since the magnetic pole started to drift back and forth between the two south poles, it has a path too. And that's the wobble path. It's kind of weird, eh? Like, I don't understand if scientists have ever determined what was causing the top of the North Pole to be deeper in some spots. I don't know if they noticed that it happened to be tracking the same path as the magnetic field wobble. I don't know. But yeah, I guess I should show you guys the what is it, the South Pole version of this. Yeah, so the South Pole version just so happens to also take that smashing path through here, I believe. So that's why we get these weird smashing patterns every once in a while on the continent or on the Earth. So when it smashed through there and moves, I noticed that it sort of looked like the human brain. Where is it? And then around the year 2012, it reached the third eye point. I was like, well, that's kind of neat. But what I never noticed either is that when it reaches that third eye point, it's still moving. And it's switching over into the direction of Australia. So it's like our magnetic pole is definitely moving towards Australia again. And what happens when it gets there? Does that mean that all of a sudden the other pole is going to shift towards England? See, one of my readers was pointing out, he brought up a really good point. He's like, the ice ages have always baffled scientists. Why a whole bunch of ice formed here? I was like, I can see why a whole bunch of ice was going to form there now, because the North Pole had shifted there. Every time it's shifting back and forth between Australia and Antarctica for the South Pole. So I think that's pretty wild. Like, maybe the last time this occurred was around the Ice Age, and it wasn't 9 million years or whatever they said it was. Or I guess it could have been millions of years ago and recently. 10,000 years ago recently. So I guess that's probably most of my best evidence that I've been showing that that's what this pole situation looks like is happening. Like, we got the drag marks that have been smashing through here. I'd say that once the pole goes, it's going to come maybe as far as here, and then follow this other smash track back towards here. There's probably some sort of big loop that mirrors the opposite loop on the North Pole. So I was thinking maybe this is why Earth's weather patterns change so unpredictably. It's like, I bet you if we could add this information into the weather pattern and show that the pole's going to shift up there and then shift around and all the way back over here, then we'll start seeing why the global patterns are shifting so much. And it's kind of neat too that this year Europe is kind of getting winter worse than Canada. It would make sense if the North Pole was going away from where it used to be in us, going a little bit towards Russia, but then all of a sudden drastically turning towards England. Yeah, we'll see if this theory is correct. If all of a sudden the magnetic North Pole shifts towards England, then we'll have good evidence that this is correct. Alright, so I got a little bit more evidence. That's the weirdest part about these Great Circle maps is they actually leave lines on the equators and stuff on the planet. Like, you can see some of them are matching. So I was glancing at the pink supermoon images, and I was thinking, hey, is anyone going to show any images of the moon where all of a sudden these crater lines are going to match up? So I'll bring that up on the screen next. No, it was the pink supermoon detail that I think made the crater stand out a lot more than normal. Here, first I'll show just, I don't know, I guess I'll show the comparison, both. Alright, here's just the original moon image. And you can see that the line covering the entire moon goes right across, dividing it like perfectly in half. I was kind of surprised that a lot of moon researchers haven't pointed out these lines. Like, I guess they're looking for bases on the moon and stuff. I think that's kind of cool, but I don't know. To me, these lines are a little bit more interesting because it seems like there's a lot of evidence for them that's like right in front of us. And I'm pretty sure I was wondering like why haven't researchers mentioned these like equator lines drawn on celestial bodies, and I was thinking the tinfoil hat part of it, like, if you started telling people, hey, I see lines all over the moon, like, what are people going to think? Especially if you think that there's a line that's dividing the thing in half. Like, when I saw this supermoon picture, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't really think it was going to be that evident. But it is, like, well, maybe when you look at regular pictures of the moon, it doesn't stand out so much. No, so what I did is I tried making a couple more moon pictures. Added in the rest of the lines. This colored line pattern is what Perry Reese used for his. That's usually why I like to use it. And you can see a lot of the crater lines are like lining up, so when I noticed too with the Earth version, I guess I should show you. When you follow the prime meridian line on the Earth, it goes on like a pretty consistent pattern. And it's pretty evident that you can see it goes like Gulf of Mexico, then another smashed area where it fucked up the planet and put it in the Great Lakes, then another area where it smashed up the planet and made the Hudson Bay. And why this shifted a bit, I'm thinking, is when the Earth changed, like that crust movement that split the, what is it called, the size of the planet, where the South Pole became 2. That's probably when all those alignments changed slightly. There's a couple different drag marks on the planet that show evidence of that. But yeah, and if people are wondering too why I think like these hourglass parts where the land connects, check how India looks. It's like you can start to see like these great circle maps are pretty damn accurate at predicting what the land is going to be shaped like. I'm pretty sure like if we go to other planets that have water on them, we're going to start seeing very similar patterns. Like even Australia, you know how, or not Australia, Italy, how it's a boot. If you take that boot shape from Italy, it's not unique. It's like Zealandia is the same thing. It's a giant boot also. So you start to see these like, I don't know, sacred geometry patterns repeating, right? Now, with my map, like if I want to change it so I can turn on all the different layers for how complex it gets, it's a little bit fucked up, like it's too much to look at, like it hurts your eyes. So I'll just give you guys an example so you can see the extra layers. Why I don't turn them all on, because it's a little bit too much. So there's the extra blue layer. And the red layer is the worst of all. The red layer I've been having trouble adding because it's so complex. It's like it's almost to the point where I don't even want to look at it. But if you work on it enough, I can get it pretty close. Oh yeah, I should reveal some of the clues that I got to increase the accuracy of these maps. Before I was kind of just winging it by eye, and it was fucking up a lot, and I was like, God, I wish I could find some way to make it more accurate. Well, what I did is I turned on the regular globe lines. Here, I'll show you them. Now with these regular grid lines, I can actually calculate where each one of these other lines needs to be, like to the precise like decimal point. Because I could like zoom in and make sure that it's like right on the line. And then that line number that equals here, you can take it and go all the way to the equator and measure it to it too, so that I know it's supposed to land right exactly on this part. So that's how I was able to get these side measurements so precisely now. It's because I was measuring it from there to there, like using the number that it gives you in this circle. Because basically, like the equator is like the only full circle map they show, or full circle they show on the regular globe, except for the top and bottom. Like each one of these lines coming out of the top and bottom is also a full circle. Yeah, and did I show you guys the full circle geometry? I'll bring that up. Not full circle, but great circle. Yeah, when I was like calculating these maps and drawing them, I thought, oh, I was coming across some amazing new technology that had never been discovered before, but really all the ancient ship navigators used to use this. That's why I think Perry Reese was compiling a whole bunch of maps into one. It's because everyone was doing the same style of great circles. And here, I'll just increase the zoom so people on cell phones can read this too. Yeah, so basically when you're making a full circle map, it's just teaching you about the orthodome, and that each time you divide the planet in half, it creates another great circle. And that you can draw them at more than one spot, not just the equator. And the other places like along the middle, I guess I'll show you. Like this place is the equator, then this Tropic of Cancer, that's where the other one is too. And then that's marked by the equinox things and stuff. And then the Arctic Circle is one it connects to. So you can see like a lot of these lines that I'm using aren't invented by me. It's like these are precise measurements that are calculated by the equinox and shit like that. And then the ones going sideways, like these ones that aren't normally there, they're not just random either. They're coming from the exact division off the top. So that's how I increase the accuracy of the map. Now I realize that I don't have to just guess where it connects here. I can just calculate it. Yeah, when I was doing the menus to name everything, I started to name these lines by the actual, what is it, degrees that they're on, to make it easier to understand reading the index. Now if anyone wants to check out a part of the globe, let me turn off some of these other lines. You can see if I leave everything on, it gets so complex. Like I feel bad, and if anyone wants to see Perry Reese, what the people in the ancient times used to have to deal with, like fuck, he didn't have Google Earth to help him. Alright, yeah, I think I copied one of Perry Reese's maps. Or I forgot to copy it, so... Ah, here it is. Yes, it is. But I think the problem he was having is he had to compile more than one map into one. The whole scale issue, because this is, you can see Africa, this is South America. I'll show you how it looks compared to mine. This is a picture of a comparison from one of my older map designs. I hadn't really finished it at that point, but I was just going with Gibraltar there. You can see Gibraltar there. The line that goes off the northern tip of Gibraltar comes off to South America. Line from north of Gibraltar goes to South America. Yeah, there was a number of these lines and orbs that started matching up, and then that's when I started to realize that holy shit, these great circle maps are the same type that Perry Reese was using. Here's another look about how complex. It's a little bit fucked up because it has a lot of square borders around it. It's like wondering where the hell that was coming from. And I think it's actually drawn onto the scale of a regular map. So a lot of those squared off areas are actually points that are marked on a normal map. So isn't it weird that Piri Reis not only had the old Great Circle map ideas, but he was going with regular map ones too? I don't know, this one's from the Turkish Museum, and I bet you it's debated, because I'm pretty sure it's way older than regular maps were, so how that could even be possible is a little bit fucked. There was a couple other slides I wanted to show. See what we got for you. Yeah, I went over the moon one. Oh yeah, I was gonna show. Yeah. Legends knew about it. Excuse me. I don't know how many people like watching this had even known that like the Pangea theory actually confirms that these two continents were connected together and were a giant super South Pole. Like I didn't even know that before. So I can't think of like what other continents would really be the second South Pole if our poles were bouncing back and forth between them. Like just imagine if this is really what's happening. That means that Australia used to be frozen at some points. Can you imagine that's what's coming in the future? People are worried about the pole flip coming, how the North and South Pole is going to switch. I highly doubt that. But what I think is going to happen is that Antarctica and Australia are going to switch again. So I don't know how that's going to work, if everyone in Australia is going to migrate to Antarctica, or they're just going to stay and try to ride out the ice growing. Or how fast this is going to happen, because I'm pretty sure like we've had times where, what was it, they had those mammoths that were found with like tropical stuff in their stomachs, insinuating that this pole switch happens rapidly. So maybe like any day now the pole's going to rapidly switch. You know, I'll show you back onto Google Earth. Yeah, like when I was checking for evidence that this kind of thing has happened before, I noticed off India that the geographical line was mapping up pretty sweet, and then the 90-degree turn is off slightly. Like you can tell that it should be up a bit more or down a bit more depending which way it was moving. So I was thinking there's evidence there that it shifted that far. Now I was wondering too, it's like we can see here that this ridge formation between the two was kind of forming to go in line with those. So it almost makes it seem like maybe this has been shifting in the past too. Like really, that ridge there had to line up with this ridge at one point in the past. So it's like it shifted that way, and then it had to line up with this one, and it's like the size was changing. So right now it's a big one. Last time it shifted, it was a little bit smaller. Last time it shifted, the Earth was even a little bit smaller than that. And then you can see every time it was shifting, and then it really did a shift where it rotated a complete, that 90 turn again. I don't know, just for me, like, how much these continents are shaped by these energy fields is mind-blowing. Like, when I look at this one, this is the one that gets me. Like, that's really outlining the land shapes pretty good. Especially Australia there, right? Oh yeah, and if people want to see other evidence that these maps are shaping how things are happening on the planet, check out the weather. Like this is a live weather thing, so I don't even know what the clouds are going to look like, but it's pretty pretty often that they're almost identical. Now obviously when hurricanes spin around the Gulf of Mexico, that one's going to be obvious. But you can see the ones around the South Pole, they'll usually spin around each one of those. So I don't know how the weather forecasters really explain how they spin in those spots. And it's neat too, it's like a lot of times when these giant lines go for clouds, they'll line up right with it. Oh, here it is. Now usually it's not always just the yellow field that it's going to line up with. Yeah, that's the red one again. Huh? Now I've noticed that this red field seems to connect with weather patterns a little bit better than yellow. Like look how that red line's connecting. Like I didn't draw that on there, that's the NASA weather pattern. I don't know, I could have swore that one was like that the other day though, so I don't know what's going on. Fucking lines of clouds. Now can you imagine that each one of these energy field colors that the ancients were drawing on these maps, they knew that it was having a different effects? Yeah, like that one follows the red pretty good. Now I'm pretty sure we're just starting to harness the potential of these. Alright, I'm just going to stretch for a second and double check on some of the questions in the chat. Oh, that was a good question. How long is it going to take for this to occur? It's like one of the slides I had brought up just before I even got to that. I was preparing it. The audience is very on the ball tonight. Alright, so here we can see how long it's been taking to travel. So when it came through and smashed through there, it actually went down a little bit and then went back up. And there's from like the 1800s to the year 2010. And I'm pretty sure from when it went from the year 2010 to, what is it, Siberia or whatever, they said it started to rapidly speed up. I think by, what was it, 600% or something? So it was covering like miles and miles per year instead of just a few inches, or whatever the difference was. So whatever is happening is definitely speeding up. It almost makes you wonder if this did happen, would they want everyone to stay inside when it did? And not to like be a conspiracy theorist too much about what's going on these days, but it kind of makes me wonder. I hope it's not that. No, and there was that, what was it, that one call on the Coast to Coast AM show where they were talking about how the government knew that something was coming, and it's like, oh, imagine they knew this was coming. Like, you gotta wonder, like, if this is true and I managed to stumble across it, there's bound to be thousands of, like, geniuses that knew about this the whole time. How are they doing? I'm the only one. Especially with Freemasonry, too, right? Like, a lot of these guys have been working on maps and stuff. Like, fuck, man, those cloud patterns on the lines, that freaks me out. I'm gonna go back to it. I guess, like, someone could argue and say, hey, you're just gonna draw random lines all over the place, it's bound to line up sometime, but that's pretty fucking weird how it lines up like that. Like, you can even see, like, a lot of the times there's orb patterns. My favorite orb pattern out of all of them is the one for, I believe, Atlantis. I don't know, people always got different theories about where Atlantis is. Let me turn the weather off. When I was looking for, like, just following the general description, circular shape, out beyond Gibraltar, seeing if I see any circular shaped places, this is the one that caught my eye. I did an episode here that you guys can check in the chat archives, or not chat, YouTube archive. This is the Schwabenland seamount. Oh, there it is, Schwabenland seamount. This one's likely Atlantis. And if you turn on the, what is it, the plate lines, it just so happens that, oh, there it is, plate boundaries. The Atlantis spot is very close where all the three major plate lines were aligning. Oh, and the other thing too, the magnetic south pole, when it does this turn, it fucking goes right by that Thule island. So I was wondering if they're harnessing the energy there. There's always those conspiracy theories about the Thule Islands. Apparently there's some like really top secret black ops stuff going on there. But yeah, and if you want to follow this line, it interacts with it pretty good in some spots. Like you can see a lot of the orb points that I was placing almost line up with the crust lines perfectly. And it's weird too, it's like it even turns at some spots where it is. Oh yeah, and then you can see here where it really forks there. You can see it's like the same geometric distances, right? And then if I turn on the other colors, you can sort of see like, man, that came close to branching right where the red field met. God, I hate putting that red field on. It's just too much. Now, if anyone's good at doing Google Maps stuff, oh, there is a cool one where it meets, huh? Or Google Earth. Like, I could really use help with the red field. The blue and the yellow fields, I didn't have that much trouble drawing, but fuck, man, that red field's a bitch. I don't understand when Perry Reese must have made it in the old days on fucking paper. God, that was just sucked. Like, I thought it was hard to draw it with a computer. I don't know how many other researchers are out there that are into these Great Circle maps. Like, I didn't even know the Great Circle maps existed. I always thought Perry Reese's was like a unique. But I guess I should have realized because they said it was a whole bunch of different maps that he put into one. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other different things that I can turn on this map. Maybe instead of the plate boundaries, I'll go over a little bit of the earthquake correlations. Sometimes people are into earthquakes. Yeah, you can see that usually when clusters of earthquakes happen, I guess they're not always on the lines, but more often than not, you can see somewhat of patterns forming. I guess technically if you want to turn on all the energy fields, then you're definitely going to see more lining up. Yeah, you can see that the blue lines really tend to fuck up this area. Like, I used to think that maybe it's blue, something to do with blue and the earthquakes, red was the weather, yellow was the formation of the lands. Perry Reese did a little differently. He made his black lines, alright, I made his black lines yellow just so that they'd be easier to see. And you probably noticed too that a lot of times the lines are going to line up on the major capital cities of places. And the only reason I'm thinking that occurs is because the whole solstice thing, a lot of these lines are the solstice line, and if an architect lines his building up like how Freemasons do that, then it's going to line up right on it. Yeah, Asia is kind of cool for that. At one point I tried to make it so that every city in Asia was on it, and I got it, but it was just bending the lines too much. So then I just did it honestly and made them all perfectly straight. Where is it? Oh, here. So yeah, I got Pyongyang in North Korea on it. I guess some of the other places, South Korea, Busan. I almost had Tokyo on it. At one point I had it bent so I could get it on there, but I was like, fuck it, I gotta be honest and show it's not exactly on Tokyo. Wish it was. Now, who knows, a lot of these cities have probably changed over the years, right? Like, how long has Tokyo been the capital? Maybe some of the other smaller cities used to be. Like, one of these ones. Alright, so yeah, it was Pyongyang. I think Hong Kong was on there. Yeah. Yeah, Beijing was on it. So there's quite a few that still line up on it. Vietnam, Bangkok almost did. Oh yeah, you wanted to see the earthquake stuff. Yeah, it's neat how like you always get like some sort of round feature of land. Like it's being pushed away from where these orbs are. That's what I'm thinking, like they're like gravity wells, sort of acting like black holes that push shit away or get stuff to orbit around them. And that's like neat how that little ankle spot or heel in the boot is like a round circle and it just happens to be around the orb spot. Well yeah, I was talking about the Atlantis one. Yeah, so there's the Atlantis one. Here, I'll put on the circle I have for Atlantis. It's pretty sick. Now I drew all the circles and then I realized that I was off by a bit and had to readjust the whole map, so now I'm going to have to draw all the circles again, but I'll just turn on the Schwabenland one for now. And let me remove the blue. Yeah, so you can see that that's where I believe Atlantis would have been. I guess I have to redraw that circle a little bit over. So there's like the polar opposite of Atlantis. Would have been off the coast of Zealandia. Oh yeah, right where that heel is. Now I was thinking too, these maps are kind of neat if you want to count how big the Earth is. Like, I don't know if you notice that the South Pole is like one square that size. So you got one cube that size, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's like you can divide the whole globe into these even cubes. It's like I never realized quite how symmetrical the globe is until I started working on these. Yeah, I guess people are into the Holy Land and wanted to see. I was hoping that it would land right on Gaza or something, but that's where it ended up. And it's weird too, I noticed a lot of times these maps, or Great Circle maps, match the current borders. So I don't know if in ancient times they were using them to make borders, maybe that's what it was. Or it's because these lines are shaping the geography, and the geography ends up creating borders. That could be it. Now there's some pretty neat spots, like I noticed a lot of the major cities in Europe were on this line. Moscow, Kiev, Bucharest, Sofia. Oh, and another thing I almost forgot to show you guys. Instead of earthquakes, this file is a massive file, so I have to be careful when I turn it on, because I can crash the computer. But this one's the megalithic portal that'll show all the ancient sites. Check out how some of them line up. Look at that series. Yeah, so you get a lot of the ancient sites that are going to line up. I can't show Europe because it'll crash the computer. There's just too many. I mean, I guess North America has so many that it's just going to look clustered on it. Now, so at one point I was wondering, like, you could almost use this as a treasure map to find out where all the ancients would have placed things. If they were going by that. Alright, so I won't show too much more of that, risking crashing my computer. But now you can see how the mountain ranges are definitely lining up with that line. Like, that's a powerful line there. It's basically all the Rocky Mountains, all the way up to Alaska. Oh yeah, and then the India ones. Like, if people notice that the continent's divided here, but then these are like a chain of mountains this way. So it's like it did the hourglass here again. I know the Pangea experts are trying to say that, what is it, India is crushing up into it, but I don't know. Could be that, or maybe it's these lines. No, Japan does look pretty special though. I wonder if there's anything that, like, ancient sites that are here. Like, if I was an archaeologist, I would probably dig there. But Fukuyama. But who knows? Maybe someone already dug there and there's nothing. Yeah, I wonder if I can show you guys that what I found on the moon. I was looking at that just last night. Yeah, let's try to do that next. This is going to be a little bit challenging too. Hopefully it doesn't crash my computer. Maybe I'll shut down Google Maps for now. Oh, he's asking if the ancients lined it up to harness energy. Alright, so yeah, I guess I'll cover that. I've done shows on it before, but it doesn't hurt. I'll cover it again quick. Let's see. No, basically how one of the first things I started getting into this was researching some Stonehenge sites up north. And then the First Nations people had information about how they were used to collect energy. So I'll show you that. And it's funny too, our Stonehenge up north in northern Ontario, Canada. Oop. What's going on? Shit. Hope that doesn't get my video taken down. But yeah, here it is. Let's see. Oh, I was on Google Earth, thank God. No, I was worried there was a message that came up on the screen that I can't show, and I was like, shit, did I show that? Alright. Let's try this again. Alright, make sure there's nothing you can't see. Now I'll bring it over. I guess I could just edit it out, but when it happens live, it's kind of a bitch, right? Alright, so myth or belief. Here's this is the mountain that's like a holy mountain next to our Stonehenge up north, or the First Nation Stonehenge, because it sounds weird me calling it, but I guess I've lived in Canada my whole life, so I consider it mine too. Alright, let's see here. Appreciate the theory. Here it is. The Dole stones are rock alignments. What? Make it a little bit bigger so people online can read it. Or cell phones. Here it is. The dole stones or rock alignments were used by early native peoples as power snares to capture spirits, which then they could be used against their enemies. Locations like this are known as power spots. So I was like, man, wouldn't it be weird if the First Nations people knew about these energy lines and were able to harness them, even use it as a weapon? Sounds hard to believe, but I don't know. I'm the one presenting a line map, so it's definitely weirder things. Alright, next I'll try to do that thing. If you have any more questions, go right ahead. I'll try to do it, hit up more questions right after this. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. It's late here. Well, I figured I'd try to do a late night stream just because. Give it a shot. Now my computer was having issues for a while, so I'm just getting back into doing live streaming. I got it going offline pretty decent. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm opening up Google here, and I'm going to try to get out into space. I guess I'll bring it on so you can see it. I don't think any bad messages will come up here. Hopefully not. Yeah, so I was looking it up, and it's pretty wild that you can go into different planets if you zoom out far enough on Google Maps. I wish it was in the Google Earth Pro, but... So I was checking out the moon. I was like, hey, I wanted to see if I can see that line that was on the pink image. And it definitely doesn't stand out near as much. But I think I was still able to find it. Oh, there it is. You can sort of see it going through there. Or is that the one? I think there's actually more than one. Now what I try to do is find it on this part. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so you can see the line is cutting through the moon. And at one crater, it's got something in the center of the crater. And I always knew to look for things in the center of the crater because I got actually advice from Buzz Aldrin when I was getting a speech from him in Toronto. Well, not just me, a whole room full of people. He said that when he was doing his orbit around the moon, one of the coolest things he saw was a giant pyramid shape inside one of the craters. And he said it was the most amazing thing he saw on his trip. So I'm going to keep an eye out for those. So I decided to zoom in on the moon here to see if I could find anything to show what this is. And I noticed there's a little artifact up here. I was like, what the hell is that? But I kept looking at the crater. I was like, oh, you can't really see it too good because the resolution sucks. But this explains what this is. If you go just slightly above it, I don't know why, but they have a really high resolution spot. So you can zoom into the surface in this little tiny spot, like freaking amazing detail compared to the rest, right? So I was like, shit, too bad it wasn't just like a little bit down so we could see what the hell this thing is. But it makes me wonder, is that like a clue that they have a higher resolution image of this area, but they only released it above it? I don't know if this would be alien base or pyramids or whatever, but I imagine more would be like a geographic or anomaly of some type, maybe a gravity anomaly. Might be full of rare minerals. A lot of the ones by the Stonehenge up north, it's like all gold mines there. So that might be like the most rarest gold or something. Yeah, so that's one of the weird parts that I found on the moon, where that giant line is dividing, happens to go near whatever the hell that is. Yeah, and this is another weird spot that the line goes through. I don't know what the fuck this shit is. It looks weird though, right? All these circles of different types. Like I always thought craters were holes in the ground. These look almost like volcanoes or mountains or something, right? One's like a circle, other ones are, I don't know. Have you guys ever seen moon shit like this before? Like, I'm tempted to start exploring the other planets and moons with this program, but even the moon itself, it's mind-blowing. Like, I can hardly wait till they release the full resolution ones, so I can start making my line map for it. Ooh. And doing the moon is almost like cheating. It's like it has a line right across it, so you don't even have to deal with oceans or anything. Now, it makes me wonder if that same shape of like hourglasses is somewhere on the moon, but we can't see it because it doesn't have water making it visible. Like, it doesn't let me scroll up, even if I hold the control key like it says. It's like I can't look at the pole good. I don't know why. It's like I can look at an angle. Now, I think some of the lines you can see here are just artifacts. So not all of them are actual lines. Oh yeah, what was I going to show you? There was one other thing. Holy. Yeah, Buzz was telling me one other thing too. He said that the biggest crater on the dark side of the moon was like the biggest one in the entire solar system, and it had a pyramid in the center. I don't know if that's the one, but I don't see the pyramid. Isn't that weird, eh? Our moon isn't even that big, and yet ours has the biggest crater in the whole solar system. It's like, how the hell did that happen? Alright, so I think I covered about all the questions. I don't want to keep this stream going too late because I'm going to have to get some sleep tonight. Yeah, but if anyone else has any cool information to share, I know there's like a million different ley line patterns that people got. I'm always into checking those out. I even modify mine all the time, so I haven't actually modified mine in a while since I did that last calculation going by the North Pole's exact decimal points, but I guess with the red lines, because man, there are so many of them, it's just hard to finish. And like, I don't know, I guess it's because they're so, I don't know if it's smaller or what it is. It's definitely harder to finish those red lines. Yeah, so I guess in the comments, if anyone wants to post, if they're good at working at Google Maps, I can start sharing the files now because I've got them down pat a lot better than I used to have them. Before I didn't want to share them because I was still changing so much. I think I've given out 1 or 2 copies of to people before, but I don't think they were even able to load it on their computers. So if any of the viewers actually have Google Earth on their computer and want me to send them the KM, or give them a link to the KMZ files, or KML, something like that, I'll try to get them posted on my website soon. Yeah, lately I've been doing some video game videos to get my channel's hours built up again. Getting some fresh subscriber counts so that YouTube isn't so stale on my channel. I'm gonna do some travel vlogging outside soon too, as soon as you know what is all finished. Hopefully that'll be any day. I guess I'll put on the other map. Yeah, thanks for watching the video. If anyone's managed to make it through the whole thing, you're the best. Yeah, what did you like and dislike about the ley line maps? What kind of more do you want to see? I was thinking maybe I'm going to do like a daily news show and updates about how the weather patterns are changing and how it lines up on the maps, how earthquakes line up on it. But really, earthquakes have been really died down lately. I don't think there's been a big one. I don't know, 7-pointer was last in what, Alaska or Indonesia or something. Yeah, if anyone has any suggestions or questions about how I made the map. Really, I was thinking maybe I'll do a tutorial video on how to make it from scratch. And it's kind of funny too, because I'll learn a lot about how it's made just by trying to reteach how to create it again. Because I was sort of just making it on the fly. Yeah, I had no idea that the North Pole was so symmetrical. Like that there was hourglass shapes at the top where both land masses were meeting. And it's so weird too, eh? You can see the line where the magnetic port, or the path. I don't know how scientists explained that before. They thought that the continent just shifted up like that for no reason. Something smashed it over, or they didn't even know that it used to be lined up like an hourglass. It makes you wonder too, like how long has the land really been this shape? Like I know the whole Pangea thing where everything fits together, but did it smash apart rapidly, or did it actually take a long time and shifting? Now I like the First Nations idea that this continent here, South America, is an elephant's head, and that it used to connect up here, which was a body of an elephant. With China being the butt. Or Japan, I guess. Yeah, and then I guess the legend went that, or history went that the First Nations people were ordered by the Creator to cut the head off the giant as a sacrifice and tie its head to the tail of Turtle Island. So you can see there's Turtle Island. The island's the shape of a turtle. And the elephant's head is tied to it. Which is a weird legend when you think about it, because I guess the First Nations people would be calling it a giant, but they really didn't know it was an elephant, because they didn't have many elephants around. Other than woolly mammoths that I guess have been extinct for quite a while. Now it makes me wonder if there really is spirits and sacrifices that were involved in creating the earth, or it did just happen by random. Now isn't it neat how these orb placements really do seem to push land away? I used to have a really good slide showing that effect in black holes and stuff, but I think I lost it. Yeah, I don't see it in this file. Oh yeah, I guess I could show one other thing. Yeah, finish with a little bit on the topic of the title of the video. Let's see here. If we remove these, remember how the South Pole was looking like a brain, I said earlier? And the Earth's magnetic field was looking like the third eye. If you put it in the year 2012. Oh, there it is. What happens if you take the Earth's plates and you turn them on? It makes a head shape. Isn't that kind of neat? It's the brain of the Mother Earth. I don't know, so that's I finished the video with this. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. I know it's a pretty wild theory. I don't want to get into too much more about the gravity wells ideas. I guess I'll do some more videos on that in the future. And if anyone wants to come on a chat with more questions, I think I'm going to have the Skype and the Google Hangout chats going once a week. I'm going to try doing that. Hoping I can get that done. Maybe I'm going to aim for Fridays or Saturdays. If people want to post in the comments when they'd like to see it, maybe I could try to meet everyone's schedules who are into this type of research. Yeah, I'm going to be doing some more video game content stuff too. Clone Heroes, or Clone Evolution. And yeah, I'll probably get some more content coming on Atlantis. And yeah, anything you guys want to see more of, just let me know. Thanks for watching and have a good time. I guess it's Easter this weekend, so have a happy Easter. See you later.